What a beautiful day to start out the year 2017. I can hear the birds singing, the winds are calm, it's 50-degree weather. Actually, don't even really need this sweatshirt on. But there's one thing missing. That's the sound of gunfire. Let's take care of that. Now, we're officially rolling into the new year. Hey guys, Buffalo here. Happy New Year to you. I've done a lot of shotgun videos on this channel, and in the comments section of several of those videos, there's ongoing arguments over how much buckshot spreads once it leaves the muzzle, or any shot for that matter, but primarily the argument seems to be over buckshot. So I thought I'd take opportunity today to make a video, and we'll just take a look and see how much it spreads. I've got some double-aught buck. We're going to be shooting it from a 20-inch cylinder bore barrel. I chose cylinder bore because didn't really want to get into the whole choke tube debate. So we're going to keep it a level playing field here and just do cylinder bore. You guys really need to test your own shotguns. You know, all shotguns pattern a little differently one from the other, and all ammo patterns a little differently, one brand from the other. Now we're going to be shooting these targets I've got here. They measure about 18¼ inches by 24¼ inches if you don't count the head area, if you just count the torso area. So what we'll do is we'll shoot these targets at 5-yard increments, starting at 5 yards, and we'll keep backing the target up until I can no longer keep the pattern on the target, and that'll be where we stop at, because that'll be about the the useful range. Once I can no longer keep it on that size of a target, it becomes unpredictable as to whether you're going to get enough pellets in your target or not. So that's kind of how we'll take this. And guys, before somebody, I'm not a firearms instructor at all. I'm not a tactical trainer at all. That's not what I do here. I do demonstrations. You guys get to make the decisions. I do demonstrations, and some people always take that wrong and claim that I'm pushing a certain agenda or product or whatever, and I'm not. I chose buckshot because I chose double-aught buckshot because that's what I have a bunch of on hand, and it's just really popular. A lot of people are using this stuff. You can pick it up just about anywhere. I've got some old school Remington Buckshot here, and I've got some Federal Premium Vital Shok with the Flitecontrol wad. We'll shoot these first and see how far we can keep the pattern on the target, and then we'll move over and try these, and then we'll compare the targets. But this Remington Buckshot has the standard wad. You can see as soon as that wad leaves the muzzle, the petals open up and the wad falls off. The Flitecontrol wad doesn't have those petals on the front end. It actually breaks from the back end. So it stays with the shot a lot longer, and supposedly keeps all 9 pellets together longer, so it should lead to tighter patterns. You can see both of these loads have buffer in them. What that buffer does is fills the voids between the shot and causes less deformation. The Federal are copper plated, and the Remington are just old school lead pellets. So let's get started. All right, remember, we're going with the old school style wad first. We're going to start at 5 yards, move back to 10, 15, 20, so on, until all 9 pellets aren't appearing on my target anymore. So I've already got my ears on. Let's get my eyes on here. Let's get started. 5 yards. All right, now to keep this video from taking all day, I'll go ahead and do some editing here. I'll mark this target and set it aside, set the next one up, and By the way, I'm not just guessing at these ranges. I am using my laser rangefinder here so that I get exact yardages to compare the two against. So, hang in there. All right, so we made it to 30 yards with the old school style buckshot, or the old school style wad, before I wasn't able to keep all the pellets on the target. So that's pretty good range. You know, typically you think 25 yards, especially in defensive situations, 25 yards, you know, you're probably going to need a rifle past that point anyway. So that's pretty respectable. Let's see if these Flitecontrol wads do much better. And once we're done, we'll compare the targets at each range side by side. Wow. I can already tell that is one hole just like a slug right there. So more than likely these patterns are going to be tighter. Let's keep pushing it out. All right, guys, that was pretty interesting. But before we start going over these targets, I just want to say it's important that you guys get out and pattern your own shotguns with the load that you're going to be using. You know, it lets you know if your shotgun is centered up, hitting where it's supposed to be. And let me tell you, you know, I'm really impressed. This is a budget shotgun. It's the Mossberg Maverick 88. You know, I got out to 40 yards with the Flitecontrol wad, which we'll go over here in a second. Held center mass on every target, and every pattern hit center mass. So I'm really, really happy with the way this cheap shotgun is lined up for me. But now on to the results of the buckshot spread here. Now at 5 yards with the old school buckshot, you can see we have got just a really small pattern there, about a 2 1/4 inch pattern. The Federal Flitecontrol wad hit like a slug. Those pellets were still in the wad when it hit this target. So let's take a look at the 10-yard target. All right, so here we have the 10-yard targets. What I keep referring to as the old school buckshot. Got about a 6-inch pattern at 10 yards. At 10 yards with the Federal Flitecontrol, this is where the wad itself went through. My pattern is actually right here. We're talking 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 pattern at 10 yards, all 9 pellets. That's pretty impressive. Let's take a look at the 15-yard. All right, now we can see the pattern on the Remington Buckshot. And this is not a knock on Remington. I'm really basically just testing the difference between the wads. I'm just happen to be using Remington branded buckshot. But the Remington opened up at 15 yards to about a foot pattern there, really starting to spread. And the Federal Flitecontrol wad stuff is just now starting to open up. We've got from the farthest 2 pellets about a 3 1/4 inch. So you're looking at 3 1/4 inch versus a foot on the spread at 15 yards. That's, again, I've already said it, but I'm impressed. Let's go on out to 20. All right, so what did we get at 20? The Remington really didn't spread much more than it did at 15. Still at about a foot at 20 yards. So just happened to work out that way. The Federal is at 8 inches. So 20 yards, Federal 8 inches. Remington still held steady at a foot. That's just the difference between two different shot shells that just happened to open up a little bit differently. So let's move on to 25. All right, so at 25, the pattern is still very well centered. But as you can see, it's starting to get a big void in the middle. We're at farthest 2 points on this pattern. About 15 inches from here to here or here to here. So they're all in a 15-inch circle. All 9 pellets are there, but we're starting to get these big voids. The Federal, on the other hand, is still really tight. Spreading vertical a little bit at 25 yards, but we're still in an 8-inch pattern. So didn't open up a whole lot from 20 to 25, but it is starting to grow vertically. Still a good looking pattern for 25 yards. So let's take a look at 30 and see what happens. All right, so at 30, we finally lost some of our pattern with the Remington regular wad buckshot. They could have went over, they could have went to the left or right. The pattern is still pretty centered, so they could have got away any direction. But that's what we were looking for, to see how far we could keep these on this 18-inch target. And at 30 yards, that was the limit for the regular wad here, at least with this particular load and that short barrel cylinder bore shotgun. But we take a look at the Federal, and it's still hanging in there. Still all 9 pellets on the target. Relatively tight pattern. We're at a foot now, 12 1/4 inches or so. So still moving on with the Federal. This is where the regular wad drops out. Let's take a look at the 35 and 40 yard targets on the Federal. Okay, so I've got both the, these are both the Federal Flitecontrol targets, 35 and 40 yards since we were done with the regular wad targets. At 35, you can see the pattern is really starting to open up now. 17 inches. So a 17-inch pattern on an 18-inch target, if these were turned horizontally, you know, you're getting very close to the edges now. Pattern still centered. Really proud of this little shotgun. It put the pattern exactly where I was aiming at it. So 35 yards, they were still all on there. Just starting to open up now. At 40 yards, we finally lost a pellet or two. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 2 pellets are missing at 40 yards, which is the same we were missing at 30 yards on the regular wad. So the Flitecontrol wad, guys, definitely, I picked up a couple of them down here. Definitely work. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of the video when I was talking about they break from the back. The pedals open, they're opened up on the back. I don't know how well you can see that, of the Flitecontrol wad. And this allows it to back off of the shot without disturbing it and keeps them together. It stays with the shot much longer. The regular wad, of course, just peels out as soon as it leaves the muzzle. But I think we'll end it with that today. This has been really interesting. Not trying to sell you guys on any type of shot shell here, just demonstrating the differences. If you need a tighter pattern, you know, most people, like I said earlier, I think 25 yards is about their shotgun limit. With either one of these, you're going to be fine. You're going to get a much tighter pattern with the Federal. But let's say you're a hunter and you want to extend that range, you know, as far as you can. You definitely want to take a look at this Federal Flitecontrol stuff. But, you know, that's all I got now. I already said it once, but Happy New Year's, guys. Let's get this year started right. I'll talk with y'all again soon.